the late-night drive. I've always loved driving at night. There's something peaceful about the empty roads, the soft hum of the engine, the glow of streetlights streaking past. It's like the world is asleep, and for a few hours, I get to exist in my own quiet little bubble. That's why I didn't mind the graveyard shift at my job. I worked at a warehouse, finishing up at 2 a.m. and driving home along a lonely stretch of highway that cut through miles of dense forest. It was always the same routine. Clock out, get in the car, turn on some music, drive. But one night, something changed. Something got in the car with me. It was a Wednesday night, sometime past 2:30 a.m., and I was exhausted. My shift had been brutal, and I just wanted to get home, shower, and collapse into bed. I pulled out of the parking lot, turned onto the highway, and set the cruise control. The road was pitch black, except for my headlights. The trees on either side stretched up into the sky, their branches twisting like fingers. The first 10 minutes were uneventful. Just me, the road, and the occasional flicker of deer eyes from the trees. Then, in my rearview mirror, I saw it. A shape. Someone was sitting in my back seat. I slammed the brakes. The car skidded, tires screeching. My heart was hammering so hard I thought I was having a heart attack. I turned around. Nothing. The back seat was empty. I sat there for a moment, trying to catch my breath. My hands were shaking on the wheel. I told myself I was just tired. Maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me. Maybe it was the shadows. Yeah, that was it. Just shadows. I forced a laugh, wiped my sweaty palms on my jeans, and started driving again. I should have turned around. I should have gone back. But I didn't. And that was my mistake. 15 minutes later, I was halfway home. The road was completely deserted. Just me and miles of dark forest on either side. Then I heard it. Breathing. Slow. Shallow. Right behind me. Every hair on my body stood on end. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I didn't want to look. I couldn't look. I kept my eyes locked on the road, my pulse hammering in my ears. But then, something moved in my peripheral vision. A shifting of weight. A slight rustling sound. Something was sitting in my back seat. And then, a whisper. Low. Hoarse. Right next to my ear. Why did you leave me behind? I screamed. I didn't mean to, but it came out, a strangled, panicked sound as I swerved the car violently to the side of the road. The tires skidded on the asphalt. The car jerked to a stop. For a moment, everything was silent. I was panting, my chest rising and falling rapidly. Then, slowly, I forced myself to turn around. Nothing. The back seat was empty again, but the seatbelt was buckled, like someone had been sitting there. I wanted to believe it was my imagination. I wanted to believe I was just exhausted, that my mind was playing tricks on me. But deep down, I knew better. I knew I wasn't alone. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I glanced at the mirror, and froze. There, in the reflection, just outside my window, a face. Pale. Hollow eyes. Mouth slightly open, as if trying to speak. I whipped my head to the side. Nothing. Just darkness. The face was gone. My hands were trembling as I threw the car into gear and sped off. I didn't care about the speed limit. I didn't care about anything except getting away. But the worst part, the mirror. The passenger seatbelt was still buckled. And I swear to God, I saw the indentation of someone sitting there. I didn't stop driving until I reached a small, rundown gas station on the edge of town. The lights inside flickered, casting eerie shadows against the cracked pavement. I pulled into the parking lot, turned off the engine, and just sat there, gripping the wheel. I needed air. I needed to convince myself I was just losing it. I stepped out of the car, my legs shaky. The cool night air rushed over me, and for a brief moment I felt safe. Then, the motion sensor light above the gas station flickered, and behind me, in the reflection of my car window, that same face, closer this time, right behind me. I turned so fast I nearly fell. Nothing. Just my car. Just the night. Just silence. I was done. I was so done. I jumped back into my car, locked the doors, and peeled out of the parking lot, speeding the rest of the way home. When I finally got home, I sat in my car for a long time. I didn't want to get out, because I knew, the moment I stepped out, I'd see it again. I took a deep breath, grabbed my keys, and forced myself to move. I didn't look back. I ran up my driveway, unlocked the door, and slammed it shut behind me. For a long time, I just stood there, breathing heavily. Then, slowly, I turned to look out the window. My car was parked under the street lamp, and in the back seat, through the glass, I saw it, a shape, still, waiting. I never drove that car again. Fear is strange. Sometimes it makes sense. A dark alley, a violent storm, a stranger following too closely. But sometimes, fear comes for no reason. You feel it when you walk into a room, when you wake up in the middle of the night for no reason, when your gut screams at you to run, even when there's nothing there. Or at least, nothing you can see. Tonight, we're telling 3 terrifying true stories, the kind that start with that unexplainable feeling of fear. And by the time these people realized why they were afraid, it was already too late. Fear is strange. It doesn't always announce itself with screams or shadows. Sometimes it's just a feeling, a tingle down your spine, a whisper in your mind telling you that something is wrong. Maybe you've felt it before, sitting alone in your room late at night when the silence feels unnatural, or walking home when suddenly your footsteps aren't the only ones you hear. Your brain tells you it's nothing, a trick of the mind, just your imagination. But what if it's not? What if that feeling is the only warning you'll ever get? The people in these stories had that feeling, a creeping dread, a sense that someone was there, watching, waiting. They ignored it. They told themselves it was all in their heads, until it was too late. Tonight, we bring you 3 terrifying true stories, accounts from real people who experienced something beyond explanation. Something that started with a feeling and ended in horror. A locked door that opened on its own. A stranger that only one person could see. A warning in the middle of the night. But from whom? If you've ever felt fear without a reason, if you've ever had that gut instinct telling you to run, listen. Because sometimes fear isn't random. Sometimes it's a warning. The man in the closet. When I was 17, I spent the summer at my Aunt Linda's house in a small, quiet town in upstate New York. My parents were going through a rough patch in their marriage, and they thought it would be best if I stayed somewhere else for a while. I didn't mind. In fact, I was excited. Aunt Linda's house was massive, an old Victorian-style home built in the 1800s. It had tall arched windows, long dark hallways, and a spiral staircase that creaked no matter how lightly you stepped on it. The house felt different from the moment I arrived. Not necessarily scary, just odd. The air inside was cool, even though it was the middle of summer. The entire place smelled like old wood, books, and something else, something I couldn't quite place. Linda was kind, but she was busy. She worked late, often coming home exhausted, and spent most of her evenings in her study with the door closed. That left me alone for most of the day. And a lot of silence. A house that big should have felt empty, but it didn't. It felt like something unseen was always watching. The first week passed without anything strange happening. But then little things started. I'd wake up in the middle of the night to soft creaks in the hallway outside my room. Not the usual sounds of an old house settling. These were footsteps, pacing, back and forth, pausing, then starting again. Sometimes, I'd hear a knock on my bedroom door. Just one. Every time I opened it, there was nothing there. At first, I told myself it was the wind. Maybe the old wood shifting. Maybe my mind playing tricks on me. But then I noticed something else. One morning, I woke up and saw that my closet door was open. Just a little. I was sure I had closed it the night before. I got up, walked over, and looked inside. Nothing. Just my clothes and some boxes. I shrugged it off. Maybe I forgot. But the next night, it happened again. And the night after that. Always open. Always just a little wider than before. One night, I tested something. I placed a chair in front of the closet door before going to bed. At 3:14 a.m., I woke up. The room was dark, the air thick. And the chair? It had been moved. The closet door was open. After that, I started locking my closet door at night. But it didn't help, because something was in there. One night, I woke up feeling off. My skin tingled. My body felt frozen. The room was pitch black, but I could see it. A shape. Tall. Thin. Standing just inside the closet. Not moving. Not breathing. Just there. I held my breath. My heart pounded so loud I was afraid it would hear me. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I squeezed my eyes shut. It's not real. It's not real. It's not real. When I opened them again, the closet door was closed. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The whispering. The next night, I woke up again. But this time, it wasn't just a shadow. It was whispering. A voice low, raspy, right next to my ear. At first, I thought I was dreaming. But then I realized it was coming from inside the closet. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't move. Then, in the darkness, I heard it. Daniel. My name. Slow. Drawn out. Daniel. I gripped my sheets, my heart hammering. Then, bang. The closet door slammed shut on its own. The next morning, I told Aunt Linda everything. She listened quietly, then sighed and rubbed her temples. I was hoping this wouldn't happen to you. I stared at her. What do you mean? She hesitated. Then finally she spoke. You're not the first. She told me that years ago, when she first moved into the house, she heard the same things. The pacing, the knocking, the whispering. She'd wake up to find her closet door open, just like I had. But who is it? I asked, my throat dry. She shook her head. I don't know. But whatever it is, it likes the closet. Then she looked at me and said something that made my stomach drop. Daniel, whatever you do, don't let it out. That night, I locked my closet door. Twice. I wasn't taking any chances. But at 3:13 a.m., I woke up. The room was freezing. I turned my head. The closet door was wide open. My stomach dropped. Then something stepped out. Tall. Too tall. Its limbs were too long, its fingers too thin and sharp. Its head tilted, watching me. I tried to scream, but my throat closed. Then it moved. One step, then another. It crawled onto my bed. It leaned in close. I could hear its breathing. Then, in a voice that wasn't human, it whispered, I'm finally out. Darkness swallowed everything. 7. The aftermath. I woke up in the hospital. Aunt Linda told me she found me unconscious on the floor of my room. I had deep scratches down my arms and neck. The closet door was broken, like something had forced its way out. I left the house that day. I never went back. Aunt Linda moved a year later. The house? It's still there. And whoever lives there now. I hope they never open the closet. The room at the end of the hall. I should have known something was wrong with the apartment the moment I stepped inside. It wasn't anything obvious. No bloodstains on the floor, no eerie whispers in the hallway. Just a feeling, like the air was too still, like something was waiting. But I ignored it. I had just moved to the city for work, and this apartment was a steal. A one-bedroom unit in an old but well-maintained building. The landlord barely asked any questions, and the rent was ridiculously low for the area. It should have been a red flag, but I was desperate. So I signed the lease, moved in that weekend, and tried to convince myself that the creeping unease in my gut was just new place jitters. I was wrong. There was one odd thing about the apartment, though. At the very end of the hallway, past my bedroom and bathroom, there was a small, locked door. I asked the landlord about it when I first toured the place. He gave me a weird look before shrugging. Just a storage space, he said. Nothing important. The key's lost, anyway. I didn't think much of it at the time. But from the moment I moved in, that door bothered me. It wasn't anything obvious, just little things. Some nights, when I walked past it to go to bed, I swore I could hear something soft behind it. A faint, rhythmic scratching. Other times, I'd find myself staring at it without realizing how long I'd been standing there. And then there was the smell. It started about a week after I moved in. Faint at first, like something damp and musty. But every night, it got worse. Rotten, like something had died inside that room. I told myself it was just an old building. Maybe there was mold. Maybe a rat had died in the walls. I called maintenance, but they never showed up. And every day, the smell got stronger. Then one night, I heard it. A knock, coming from inside the locked room. I shot up in bed, my heart pounding. I wasn't dreaming. That knock was real. 3 slow, deliberate taps against the wood. I held my breath, listening. Silence. Then, click. The sound of a lock turning. I turned my head slowly toward the hallway. The locked door. It was open. Just a crack. Blackness seeped from the space beyond, swallowing what little moonlight filtered through the apartment. I wanted to move. I wanted to slam the door shut. But I couldn't, because at that moment, something moved inside the darkness. A shape. Tall. Thin. Wrong. And then, it smiled. I don't remember how I got out of bed. 1 second, I was frozen in place, staring at that grinning shadow. The next, I was running. I didn't stop to grab my phone, my keys, anything. I just bolted. Through the living room, past the kitchen, straight to the front door. My hands fumbled with the lock. And then I heard it. Behind me. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Coming from the hallway. I yanked the door open and threw myself outside. I didn't stop running until I was 3 blocks away, bent over, gasping for breath. When I finally looked back, my apartment window was dark, but in the reflection of the glass, that same shape, watching me, smiling. I don't remember getting back inside. I must have at some point, because the next thing I knew, I was waking up in my bed. Morning sunlight streamed through the curtains. Birds chirped outside, like nothing had happened. But my apartment felt wrong. The air was heavy, thick with the same rotten stench. And when I turned my head, the locked door at the end of the hall was shut again, like it had never been open, like I had never run out of the apartment screaming. Had it been a nightmare? Maybe. But when I got up, I noticed something. My front door was still unlocked, and my bare feet were covered in dirt, as if I had really been outside. It wasn't a nightmare. It was real. That day, I called my landlord. I demanded answers. I told him something was wrong with the apartment. He sighed long and tired, and then he said something that made my stomach drop. "Don't go in the room." I asked him why. He refused to say. That night, I decided to find out for myself. I grabbed a flashlight, stood outside the locked door, and took a deep breath. Then, with shaking hands, I kicked it open. The door swung inward, and inside, dust, cobwebs, an old wooden chair in the center of the room, and on the walls, photographs, hundreds of them, all of me, sleeping, eating, walking through my apartment. Some were from weeks ago, but others were from last night, and in the background of every single one, that same shadowy figure, watching me. I didn't sleep. I packed my bags, grabbed everything I could, and left the apartment before sundown. I never looked back. I didn't ask for my deposit. I didn't tell anyone what happened. I just left. But sometimes, when I'm alone in my new apartment, when I pass by a dark hallway, I hear it. A knock. Slow. Deliberate. And I know. It found me again.